It was 1 a.m. on a stormy night. The streets outside were empty, only the sound of rain hitting the tin roofs and the distant barking of stray dogs filled the silence. I was half asleep, trying to fight the heaviness in my eyes, when a sudden, desperate knock echoed on my front door. Thud, thud, thud. At first, I thought it was just the wind rattling the wooden frame. Who could possibly come at this hour? But the knocking grew louder, frantic, almost as if someone was begging for help. My heart skipped a beat. With trembling hands, I switched on the dim porch light and walked towards the door. When I pulled it open, my world froze. There in the rain stood my daughter, or rather, she was barely standing. Her sari was torn at the edge, her hair messy, her face pale as if the life had been drained out of her. Blood was trickling from her lip, her eyes swollen with tears and pain, and before I could even breathe, she collapsed straight into my arms. "Mom," she whispered, her voice broken, almost lost in the sound of the storm. He hit me because of her." I felt the weight of her words pierce me like a knife. My hands shook as I held her, trying to stop my heart from shattering. I had imagined many nights in my life, but never one where my daughter would collapse at my door, whispering about the man she had trusted, the man she had married, my son-in-law. And why? Because of another woman. For a moment, everything blurred. The rain, the night, the silence, all vanished in the rage and helplessness boiling inside me. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, to run and drag him by the collar and ask, "How dare you touch her?" But all I could do was hold her tighter as she shook in my arms. Her body was cold. Her hands clutched my shirt like a frightened child. And with every weak breath she took, I realized the truth. This was not just a small fight between husband and wife. This was violence. This was betrayal. This was my daughter breaking right in front of me. I carried her inside, laying her on the couch. Her eyes fluttered, half open, filled with a mixture of fear and shame. She kept mumbling words. "He doesn't love me, he only wants her. He said I'm nothing." Each sentence was a dagger. I remembered her wedding day. The bright lights, the music, the laughter. She was glowing, dressed like a queen, smiling as if the whole world belonged to her. And that man, my son-in-law, had stood there with folded hands, promising me he would keep her safe, respect her, love her for life. What happened to those promises? The rain outside grew heavier, as if the sky itself was crying with me. I sat by her side, holding her hand, whispering that she was safe now, that nobody could hurt her here. But deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning of a storm much bigger than the one outside. That night, at 1 a.m., my daughter collapsed at my door. That night, I learned that the man I had trusted had turned into her nightmare. That night, I realized, sometimes the people we welcome into our homes carry shadows darker than we can ever imagine. And from that moment on, nothing in our lives would ever be the same. I sat beside my daughter that night, my hands trembling as I stroked her hair, whispering words I wasn't sure she could even hear. She looked so fragile, lying on that couch, breathing in short, painful gasps. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm inside me. I am her father, and in that moment, I wasn't just a man sitting beside his daughter. I was a man watching his own heart break in front of him. The bond between us. From the moment she was born, she was the light of my life. I still remember the day the nurse placed her in my arms for the first time. Her tiny fingers curled around my thumb, and I knew I would do anything to protect this child. She was my pride, my hope, my everything. When she was little, she would follow me everywhere. If I went to the market, she wanted to come. If I sat under the tree reading the newspaper, she would climb onto my lap and demand I tell her stories instead. "Mom, tell me again about the king who never gave up," she would say, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. Her laughter filled our small home like music. And no matter how hard my day was, no matter how many struggles I faced at work, one smile from her erased all my worries. She was not just my daughter. She was my companion, my little friend. She used to say, "Mom, when I grow up, I'll take care of you. I'll never let you feel sad." I would laugh and reply, "Paggle, you'll get married and go to your own home. Then you'll forget me." She would shake her head furiously, hug me tight, and say, "Never, Mom, never." And I believed her. The day she changed. Like every father, I knew one day she would grow up. One day, someone else would come into her life. But I prayed that whoever came would love her as much as I did, would protect her with the same devotion, would cherish her for the precious jewel she was. The day of her wedding is still clear in my mind, as if it happened yesterday. The house was filled with relatives, laughter, and songs. She looked like an angel in her red sari, shyly hiding her smile behind her dupatta. I remember standing in the corner, watching her, my throat tight with emotions. My little girl was leaving. She came to me before the ceremony, holding my hand. "Mom, are you happy?" she asked. I nodded, though my heart was heavy. "As long as you are happy, I am happy." She hugged me, whispering, "Then don't worry, I will make everything perfect." And when I looked at the groom, my son-in-law, I saw a polite young man, folded hands, a soft smile. He touched my feet for blessings and promised, "Uncle, don't worry. I will take care of her as my own soul." That promise, those words, still echo in my ears like a cruel joke. The first shadows. In the first few months of marriage, she seemed fine. She would call me and say, "Mom, he is good. He takes me out. We go to the market together." I would smile, relieved. But slowly, her voice began to change. The sparkle in her eyes dimmed. Her calls became shorter. Whenever I asked if everything was all right, she would force a laugh and say, "Yes, Mom, just busy." But I knew my daughter. A father always knows. Behind her laugh, there was silence. Behind her words, there was fear. And then, that night happened. The night she collapsed at my door. The flashback, from joy to pain. As I held her on the couch, my mind drifted back to a memory, one of her happiest days. It was her 18th birthday. We didn't have much money then, but I somehow managed to buy her a small gold chain. When I gave it to her, she jumped with joy, hugged me so tight that I almost lost my balance and said, "Mom, this is the best gift ever. I will wear it every day." That same chain was around her neck now, but broken, snapped roughly, as if someone had yanked it during a fight. The sight of it tore me apart. How cruel could he be, to destroy not just her happiness, but also the small tokens of our love? Present pain. She stirred a little, her lips trembling as she whispered, "Mom, I tried to make him happy, but he always compares me to her, to that woman. He says I'm not good enough. He hit me when I begged him to stop seeing her. He said I should learn my place." Her tears rolled down, mixing with the rainwater still clinging to her hair. I wiped them gently, my own eyes burning. How do you comfort a daughter whose trust has been broken? How do you tell her that everything will be okay when you yourself are drowning in rage and sorrow? I wanted to run to him, to grab him by the collar and ask, "Is this what you call love? Is this how you respect my daughter?" But my daughter's shivering body held me back. She needed me here, not fighting him. So I stayed, I held her. I whispered, "You are not weak, Beta, you are not less. And no matter what he says, you are my pride, you are my everything." She closed her eyes, as if those words gave her a small shield against the pain. The emotional connection. That night, I realized something. Marriage may give a girl a new home, but her roots remain with her parents. No matter how far she goes, when her world breaks, she returns to the one place she knows will never betray her, her father's door. And I promised myself, as I sat there with her trembling hand in mine, that I would never let her face this alone again. This was no longer just her fight. This was my fight too. Because a father's love does not end at the wedding mandap. It grows stronger when his daughter needs him the most. That stormy night became a turning point. From the laughter of her childhood, to the promises of her wedding, to the betrayal of her marriage, I had seen it all. And now, I was ready to face whatever came next. For my daughter. For my pride. For my blood. The storm outside had not calmed, but inside, my house felt colder than the winter wind. My daughter was curled up on the couch, shivering, her face swollen from the blows she had received. I sat beside her, silent, trying to control the rage that was burning inside me. She looked at me with pleading eyes, whispering, "Mom, I didn't want to tell you. I tried to protect him, I tried to make him happy. but he's not who I thought he was." Her words were like knives. I had always known she was brave, that she could face difficulties with courage. But seeing her broken, bruised, and terrified, it made my blood boil. I saw her first, Mom," she began, her voice trembling. "The woman he keeps meeting, she comes to his office, they go out together. I didn't want to believe it. I wanted to think he loved me. But one day, I followed him. I saw them holding hands, laughing, smiling as if I didn't exist." I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. The man who had promised to protect her, to love her forever, was using her as a mask for his desires. "My heart, it shattered that day," she continued, tears streaming down her face. "I begged him, Mom. I said, please don't see her. I love you. We are married." But he laughed at me. And then she broke down completely, covering her face, shaking with sobs. "Then he hit me, Mom. He hit me for loving him, for trusting him, for trying to be a good wife." I could not breathe. Rage, shock, and heartbreak collided in me. The man I had welcomed into our family, the man who had sworn to respect and cherish my daughter, had become her worst nightmare. I reached out and gently lifted her sleeve. Fresh bruises and faded marks covered her arms, dark, angry purple and blue spots. My heart ached as I traced the lines with my fingers, each mark telling a story of cruelty, each bruise a scar on her innocence. Her sari was torn at the shoulder. Her lip was swollen. Her hair was matted with rain and blood. And yet, through all this pain, she had tried to hold herself together. She had tried to fight, to survive for him. The anger inside me grew uncontrollable. I wanted to pick up the first object I could find and smash it against the wall. I wanted to go to that man and shout, scream, demand justice. But my daughter, my broken, trembling daughter, needed me more than the world needed my revenge. "I can't do this anymore, Mom," she whispered through sobs. "I feel worthless. I feel like I'm not enough. I trusted him and he made me feel like a mistake, a burden, a joke." I pulled her closer, holding her against my chest. "No, Beta, you are not a mistake. You are my daughter, you are strong. And nobody has the right to make you feel less than you are." Her tears soaked my shirt. Each sob tore at my heart, each quiver of her body made my soul ache. I wanted to scream, to shake the world awake and make it understand the cruelty she had faced. "You are not alone," I said, my voice breaking. "I am here. I will not let him touch you again. I will not let him make you feel small." But inside, I knew words alone would not heal the pain. Words would not erase the betrayal. Words could not undo the violence he had inflicted. I thought about him, my son-in-law, sitting in his warm bed, smiling while my daughter suffered. I remembered the polite, folded hands man I had met at our wedding, the promises he had made, the lies. Now I saw his true face, a selfish, cruel man, willing to use, abuse, and humiliate the one he had vowed to protect. A man who had no conscience, no respect, no love. And the way he treated her, it was not just cruelty. It was a deliberate, calculated attempt to destroy her spirit. He had laughed at her pleas, mocked her pain, and elevated another woman above his wife. My hands shook with fury. I could imagine the scene in my mind, him laughing, drinking, smiling with the woman who had replaced my daughter in his heart. And her, my daughter, standing alone, begging, crying, desperate for love that had turned to poison. The hatred for him surged like a storm inside me. I hated his lies. I hated his arrogance. I hated the fact that he had made my daughter cry. Every polite gesture, every fake smile he had given me, every promise he had spoken, all were lies. And yet, through her pain, my daughter had survived. Through the abuse, through the betrayal, she had held on. That resilience made my anger sharper, my determination stronger. I whispered to her, "We will not let him win. He thinks he can destroy you, but he is wrong. He will regret this. He will regret hurting you, and I will make sure." Her tear-streaked face looked up at me. In her eyes, I saw fear, pain, and a glimmer of trust that I would protect her. That small spark gave me strength. The moment of realization. I realized something crucial that night. The battle was no longer just about love, or marriage, or betrayal. It was about justice. It was about ensuring that the man who had caused so much pain faced the consequences. It was about showing my daughter that trust and love are not always answered with cruelty, but with courage and action. She murmured, still shaking, "Mom, I don't know how I will live with this, how I will go back, how I will face him." I held her tighter. "Beta, you don't have to face him alone. I am with you. We will face him together, and he will never hurt you again." And in that moment, I knew the line had been crossed. The polite, respectable man I had once welcomed into my home had disappeared. All that remained was a villain, exposed in the harsh light of truth and ready to face the consequences of his actions. The storm outside was nothing compared to the storm in my heart. My daughter, fragile and wounded, had been betrayed by the person she loved the most. And I, her father, felt the same helplessness and rage that any parent would feel. But helplessness was temporary. Rage was fuel. And from the wreckage of betrayal and pain, a plan of action began to form in my mind. He had shown his true colors. He had broken my daughter's trust and body. He had humiliated her, reduced her to tears, and elevated another above her. And now, it was time for him to understand that actions have consequences. The morning after that stormy night, I couldn't sit still. My daughter had slept most of the night, exhausted and fearful, but I was wide awake. Rage and determination burned inside me. The man who had hurt her, my own son-in-law, would not escape this. Not this time. I knew words alone would not protect her. I needed proof, photographs, messages, witnesses, anything that could show the world the truth of his betrayal. The first step was gathering evidence. I started with his phone records. With trembling hands, I looked through the calls and messages. There they were, late-night calls, secret messages from a woman he had been hiding. My stomach turned as I read his texts, filled with lies, seduction, and disregard for my daughter. Next, I went through his social media. Photos of him and the other woman smiling together, attending parties, laughing as if my daughter didn't exist. Each image was a fresh stab in the heart, but also a piece of the puzzle I needed. I photographed the bruises on my daughter, documented the torn sari, the lips swelling, the faint marks on her arms. Every detail counted. Every scar told a story of cruelty. Introducing allies. I realized I couldn't fight this alone. I needed support. I reached out to a few people I trusted. First, our neighbor, Mrs. Sharma, an elderly woman who had always treated my family like her own. She agreed to help by keeping an eye on him, noting any suspicious activity, and being a reliable witness if needed. Then my childhood friend, Ramesh, who was now a lawyer. He listened carefully as I explained everything. Without hesitation, he promised to guide us legally, to file complaints, and to ensure that my daughter's safety came first. "Don't worry," he said firmly. "We will make sure he cannot harm her again." Lastly, my daughter's best friend, Neha, who had always been protective of her. Neha agreed to stay close to my daughter, accompany her when needed, and help record evidence discreetly. With allies on board, the first step was safety. My daughter would stay with me until this was resolved. The second step was proof. We would document everything, the calls, the meetings, the lies. Nothing could be left unchecked. Each day, we gathered more evidence. The neighbors noted his movements, the lawyer guided us on legal documents, and Neha discreetly recorded encounters. Slowly, piece by piece, the truth began to take shape in our hands, like a weapon against the cruelty that had invaded our home. Emotional shift. My daughter, still fragile, began to feel a small sense of relief. She realized she was not alone. Her father, her friends, her allies, they were all standing with her. And in that support, her courage began to return, little by little. She still cried sometimes, and the pain had not gone, but she knew now that justice was possible. The man who had abused her would not be allowed to walk free. He would face the consequences of his betrayal, and finally, my daughter could reclaim the dignity he had tried to steal. By the end of the week, we had a full file: photographs, screenshots, witness statements, and a clear timeline of his betrayal. What had once been chaos and fear was slowly turning into action and preparation. The storm had passed, but the real battle was just beginning. Just when I thought we were gaining ground, the storm returned. But this time, it was not just rain or wind. It was the cruelty of the man I had trusted with my daughter's life. My son-in-law had realized that we were gathering evidence against him, and he decided to strike back harder. It started with phone calls. My daughter's number rang constantly. Each call was filled with threats, insults, and manipulation. "If you go to your father, if you try to expose me, you will regret it," he hissed. "Everyone will believe me, not you." Then came messages to me, the father. He tried to intimidate, writing things like, "You think you can teach me a lesson? You will see what happens when you interfere. Your daughter is mine, and you cannot stop me." The audacity was shocking. I had never imagined that someone could be so cruel, so shameless, so utterly lacking in conscience. Worse than his threats, the whispers began. Relatives and neighbors, people who had always smiled and nodded at me, started to question my daughter. "Are you sure this happened?" they asked. "Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Maybe she provoked him." The blame, the suspicion, all turned toward us, the victim and the father. My daughter's courage wavered as even family members doubted her. It felt like we were fighting not just one villain, but an entire system ready to twist truth and protect the powerful. He was clever. He created fake messages, forged images, and even lied to his own family, claiming we were trying to defame him. He painted my daughter as unstable, emotional, even ungrateful. He twisted the truth in ways that made it hard for outsiders to see the reality of his abuse. He even showed up at our home one evening, pretending to be apologetic. He smiled, held my daughter's hand, and said, "I was stressed. I didn't mean it. Let's forget this and live peacefully." But I had seen through the mask. My daughter's bruises told the real story. His apologies were lies, manipulations meant to confuse and trap us. The mental toll was immense. I could feel my own anger building, but also frustration, helplessness, and fear. Every threat he sent made my heart pound. Every whispered doubt from society made me question if we could fight this alone. And seeing my daughter shrink in fear, hiding her face, made me feel powerless in ways I never thought possible. One night she whispered through tears, "Mom, what if no one believes us? What if he destroys everything?" I held her close, but my own voice trembled. "We have proof, Beta. We will fight. No one can take your dignity away. Not him, not anyone." Yet inside, I knew the fight was far from over. The villain was clever, patient, and ruthless. He was not just physically abusive. He was attacking her reputation, her mind, and our emotional stability. By now, it was clear he would not back down. He had realized that evidence alone would not stop him. He needed to break our spirits. Threats became more direct. Stalking, anonymous calls, even rumors spread among our neighbors. Every step we took to protect my daughter seemed to meet a new barrier of lies and intimidation. It was a battle of endurance. He wanted us to feel trapped, hopeless, and silenced. And for a moment, I feared he might succeed. But then I remembered her small smile that first night I held her after the beating. I remembered her bravery, her tears, and her trust. And I knew, even under maximum pressure, we could not give up. This was not just a fight for justice anymore. This was a fight for survival, for dignity, and for truth. Just when it seemed the storm would never end, a surprising turn of events gave us a glimmer of hope. It started with a message on my phone from an unknown number. The words were simple, but shocking. "I know the truth. I want to help. Meet me tomorrow." I hesitated. Could it really be someone willing to stand against him? Could anyone close to him dare to reveal his lies? My daughter looked at me nervously. I nodded and decided we had nothing to lose. The next day, we met her at a small tea stall near the railway station. Ria, a young woman in her late 20s. She was the very person my son-in-law had been seeing behind my daughter's back. But unlike him, she seemed genuinely conflicted. "I didn't know he was married at first," she admitted, her eyes filled with shame. "He told me lies, but now I've seen what he did to your daughter. I can't stay silent anymore. I want to help." For a moment, I didn't know whether to trust her. But something in her voice, the genuine regret, convinced me. Ria revealed details that no outsider could know. Secret meetings, messages, and even recordings where he mocked my daughter, insulted her, and promised Rhea he would leave his wife soon. These were the exact proofs we needed, evidence that could not be forged or denied. With her help, we began documenting everything systematically. She gave us access to his hidden emails, screenshots of chats, and the times he had lied about his whereabouts. Slowly, the puzzle began to complete itself. For the first time in weeks, my daughter felt a small sense of relief. She no longer felt entirely alone. Someone from the villain's own world was standing with us, showing that truth could prevail. She whispered to me, "Mom, maybe we can finally show everyone who he really is." I held her hand tightly. "Yes, Beta, this is our chance. Finally, the truth will come out, and you will no longer have to hide or be afraid." Even I felt a weight lifting. The constant fear, the endless anxiety, it did not disappear completely, but now it was replaced with purpose. We had a plan, and we had a new ally who could help us see it through. With Rhea on our side, the atmosphere changed. The next steps became clear: evidence collection, confronting him, and exposing the lies he had built around himself. The villain would no longer be untouchable. His manipulations, threats, and abuse could now be challenged with proof from someone who knew the truth intimately. For the first time, we could imagine a future where my daughter could be safe, where she could reclaim her dignity, where justice could prevail. And though the path ahead was still dangerous, the smallest ray of hope had appeared, piercing through the darkness that had engulfed our lives for so long. The day of reckoning arrived. My daughter and I walked into the courtroom, her hand in mine, hearts pounding. The air was tense, thick with anticipation. For weeks, we had collected evidence, messages, photos, witness statements, and the insider information from Rhea. Today, all of it would be laid bare. Ramesh, our lawyer, began presenting the proof. First, the photos of bruises, the torn sari, and the marks of abuse. Each image drew murmurs from the courtroom. My daughter, though nervous, stood tall, her courage slowly returning. Then came the messages and call logs, evidence of his secret meetings and lies. The screenshots were clear, showing him mocking my daughter, talking about Rhea, and planning his betrayal. Rhea herself took the stand, calmly describing the manipulations and lies, confirming every detail we had suspected. The courtroom fell silent. Even the judge looked stern, his eyes fixed on the villain. My son-in-law tried to act confident at first. He smirked, waved his hand dismissively, and claimed, "This is all fabricated. They are making false accusations." But as each piece of evidence was revealed, each call, each message, each witness, his arrogance began to falter. His lies could no longer hide behind charm or manipulation. Rhea's testimony was the final blow. The truth was undeniable, and the courtroom could see the cruelty he had tried to mask. His face turned red with anger, then pale with panic. Every attempt to lie, to manipulate, to intimidate failed. His power over my daughter was gone. The man who had once seemed untouchable now looked small, exposed, and defeated. Finally, the judge spoke. His words were firm, decisive. "Based on the evidence, witness testimony, and documented abuse, this court finds the husband guilty of domestic abuse, manipulation, and harassment. The marriage is hereby annulled. The victim shall receive full protection and legal support." My daughter's eyes filled with tears, not of fear but of relief. She turned to me and whispered, "Mom, it's over. He can't hurt me anymore." I held her close, my own tears falling. After months of fear, betrayal, and pain, justice had been delivered. The courtroom cleared slowly. Neighbors, relatives, and friends who had doubted us now looked at my daughter with respect. She was no longer the frightened, helpless girl who had collapsed at my door. She had faced the storm and survived. Rhea approached us, smiling softly. "I'm glad I could help," she said. "He can't hide the truth anymore." I looked at my daughter, proud beyond words. Her courage, her resilience, and her trust had carried us to this moment. And in that victory, I saw more than just justice. I saw healing, dignity restored, and a future that belonged to her alone. That day, I realized something profound. A father's love does not end at the doorstep of adulthood. It stands as a shield, a protector, and a force that cannot be broken. My daughter had been betrayed by someone she loved, but she was never alone. Together, we had faced lies, abuse, and manipulation, and emerged victorious. For my daughter, the nightmare was over. For me, the battle had proved one truth: courage, truth, and love are stronger than deception and cruelty. And finally, at last, we could breathe. Weeks passed after the courtroom victory. The storm that had haunted our lives slowly began to fade, leaving behind a calm, quiet that felt like a long-awaited breath. My daughter, though still tender from her experiences, started to smile again. Her laughter returned in small bursts, like sunlight breaking through clouds after a heavy rain. We moved her into a new apartment, close to me, where she felt safe and in control of her life. Each morning, she would wake up without fear, preparing her own breakfast, reading books, and even laughing at small jokes. The simple routines of life, once taken for granted, became milestones in her healing. Ria, the woman who had once been part of the villain, deception, became a friend. She helped my daughter rebuild her confidence, showing that even those who were once on the wrong side could choose to do the right thing. Together, they shared small joys, shopping trips, tea at the park, long walks, reminding my daughter that trust and friendship could exist again. Our neighbors and friends, once doubtful, began to support us openly. They admired her courage, respected her strength, and slowly, the whispers of blame were replaced with words of encouragement. The community had witnessed a transformation, not just in her, but in the way justice and truth had triumphed. Even within our family, bridges that had been strained began to mend. Relatives who had hesitated to believe us now offered apologies, hugs, and understanding. The sense of shame and isolation that had hung over us for months was replaced by solidarity and care. Sitting with my daughter one evening, I held her hand and watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and orange. I thought about the months of fear, betrayal, and sleepless nights. I thought about the pain she had endured, the bruises, the tears, and the loneliness. And I realized something. Our victory was not just about us. It was about all those who suffer in silence, those who are abused, humiliated, and silenced by the cruelty of others. Our fight, our courage, our determination to stand up for the truth was a reminder that no one is truly powerless when they seek justice and support. "This victory is not just mine," I whispered to her. "It's for everyone who suffers in silence, for every person who has been hurt and ignored. Your courage, Beta, has given hope to countless others." She smiled softly, tears glimmering in her eyes, not of sorrow, but of resilience. The journey had been painful, but it had also been a testament to love, determination, and the unbreakable bond between parent and child. Life moved on, slowly but surely. The nightmare of betrayal was behind us, replaced by healing, trust, and new beginnings. We had faced lies, cruelty, and despair, and emerged stronger, united, and hopeful. The story of that dark night, the storm, the betrayal, and the courtroom battle became a quiet lesson. That even in the deepest darkness, truth and courage can shine, guiding us toward justice, dignity, and the chance for a new life. And most importantly, my daughter had found her freedom, and so had we all.